Welcome to Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast. Our goal is to keep you informed, inspired, and a little entertained on all things diabetes. The information contained in the program is based on the experience and opinions of the Integrated Diabetes Services clinical team. Since this is a very individualized condition, please check with your healthcare provider before implementing any of the weird stuff we may happen to share with you today.
And I am your host today, Jenny Smith. I am the Director of Lifestyle and Nutrition with Integrated Diabetes. And today we will be discussing who is Gary Scheiner. So I'm very excited to be joined by none other than our wonderful leader, motivator, Mr. Gary. How are you today?
Legend in my own mind.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That's a
How
great
did
way
it
to say it.
feel to say, I'm your host, Jenny Smith? Because as many podcasts as you've done over the years, I don't know that I've ever heard those words emanate from your mouth.
No, I've never been the host. It's very exciting. Yay.
You have power you never thought you'd have.
I guess so. It's very exciting. Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's just fun to, talk to people. I think that's why I enjoy podcasts. I enjoy finding certain ones to listen to too. So, we're doing all about all of our integrated staff so that as we put out all of the wonderful things that we like to talk about, with no outside influence, all of our good opinion and thoughts about everything, it's nice to get to know each of us a little bit differently, right? Because we all have different families and we live in different places and we all have different likes and dislikes about things. So today we get to highlight who is the real Gary Scheiner. And something I've always kind of wondered about myself. I mean, we've known each other a pretty long time, like 12, 13-ish years. And I've always been kind of curious what were you passionate about before diabetes? Because you were diagnosed as an adult, right?
I was 18.
You were 18, so just on the cusp of adulthood, kind of.
I thought I was an adult, but how little I knew.
Right, exactly. So what were you interested in? I mean, you were going to college, so what were you interested in? What did you think your path was going to be?
Well, I thought I was going to go into medicine. That,
Okay.
that was the original plan. So when I was looking at colleges, I looked for these strong pre-med factories so that I could eventually go to med school.
Okay.
And during my first couple of years of college, I was doing okay course-wise, grade-wise. I really, really disliked the other people in the pre-med curriculum.
Ah,
And I was just so turned off by it. I saw the amount of work that most had to put in, it kind of sucked their personalities away. So I saw a
yeah.
lot of people coming out of that, that factory, so to speak, were just a bunch of drones with no creativity, not much personality. And I didn't want to turn into that.
Ah. So you changed, did you think that it would really change you, or did you find that you weren't as interested then based on what you saw people kind of turning into, and so you changed the path to something else?
You know, the information and the subject still interested me.
Mm,
I just didn't want to become one of those people.
sure.
I could see myself just studying and studying and studying and losing personality,
Mm,
losing creativity, and just not being the same person. I'd like to keep my personality
yeah.
and enjoy myself. It's more
Right.
to
Well,
life.
and you've got a great sense of humor. You love music, right? You love basketball and all those pieces they do. I mean, when we talk about personality, right? Our personality is something that isn't really a piece of our body. It's part of our spirit. It's what makes us who we are. And when you lose a piece of that because you're going one track or one direction, um, it's good when you recognize that, especially as a young person, because I think there are a lot of young people that they don't realize it until well after that's happened.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain, I guess, level of respect people get when they have an MD, PhD, DO after their names.
Of course.
However, I've come to learn that I've probably been able to have a better, bigger influence on people's lives doing what we do as CDCESs than as MDs. Most of the MDs I know, they're cycling patients through so fast, they don't get to know them. They
Right.
don't get to, touch on their personal lives and help them really achieve their goals specifically. And that's, again, I don't feel like that's a good way to live or something to build a career around.
Right. I guess your experience being diagnosed at 18 then and moving through those early college years and moving through pre-med and getting to see where that was leading some people and you not wanting to go that path. Um, I guess that probably was an inspiration to maybe move towards diabetes education. Was that even something that was on your radar, or because you're an exercise
Wasn't
physiologist?
I had no idea the fields even existed. I
Okay.
I was a biology major, but I also studied psych. I studied marketing, a little economics, and I think I learned a lot in that coursework. I think it
Mm.
still benefits me today. In fact, when I graduated I went to Washington University in St. Louis. And when I graduated, I ended up working at an ad agency. That was my
Wow.
that was my first job. I was a copywriter at an ad agency in the Chicago area.
Okay.
So yeah, I got to be creative, got to think outside the box and learn about a lot of new things and interact with people. It didn't quite provide the level of, I didn't feel like I was making a positive difference in many people's lives, though. I could help
Sure.
them sell more widgets, but
Right.
who
Right.
cares? And then yeah, I went to a diabetes meeting at a local hospital, and I heard an exercise physiologist um, who did a talk. And I was always very passionate about workouts and sports and had my challenges
Hmm.
managing my diabetes with the sports activity. And I heard this guy speak and my eyes lit up. I said, wow, I want to do that. We hear that, Catherine says that now about me. She wants to do what I do. I
Right.
want to do what this guy did.
Hmm.
His got his first name, his last name was Kowalski.
Which wasn't even diabetes. It was just something that really was piece of your life already, being active and really enjoying not only playing, but also watching sports and sort of like struck something for you. And I
Did.
could probably almost like, it's kind of like me. Sometimes when I get interested in something, I feel like the wheels turning and
Mhm.
you almost see how it can work within the framework of something that's important to you, which also included your diabetes management.
Yeah.
So you went
Yeah.
back to school then?
Went back to school, got my master's in exercise physiology. I was writing advertising copy by day and studying
At night?
intermediate biochemical pathways by night. It was an intensive program. It was a lot of heavy science involved.
Sure.
But I got through that and I started looking for jobs. I wanted to work in the diabetes space as an exercise physiologist. The only place I knew that had that was either the Joslin Clinic
Mhm.
or the International Diabetes Center. And
In
other than that,
Minnesota?
yeah,
Mhm.
there weren't many other places. So, I just started applying around the country, and Joslin reached back out to me, and I ended up taking a job in Philadelphia. So we moved from Chicago to Philly. This was back in the early 90s.
Okay.
So we loaded up the truck and we moved to Philly. And on the way, I'm driving this moving van and put on the radio, and there was an Eagles game on. And I remember Randall Cunningham throwing a touchdown. I got all excited. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna enjoy this. Philly's got
Cool.
a strong sports vibe, so it was a good fit for me.
That's awesome. And so you just obviously stayed, and I guess, how long did you stay with Jocelyn then, and what sort of moved you into, I guess, what maybe from that job inspired you to move into starting your own practice being integrated diabetes?
Well, you probably heard me say the phrase necessity is the mother of invention. I developed the practice out of necessity because the
Hmm.
Joslin, it was an affiliate clinic for the Joslin in Boston. And it was only up and running for about 2 years before they started to tear it down, just breaking the pieces off from it.
Oh, wow.
Instead of having me full time in the diabetes, they split my time with like geriatric psychiatry, and I had to do
Wow.
strangest things with these patients just to get them active. But I also saw a need. And it was one thing I learned from one of my marketing courses in college. I had this big rotund professor, and every day he'd walk in, he said that marketing is meeting buyer needs. That's how he started every class. And that's rang very true. When my time working at Joslin, I saw a tremendous need patients had.
Sure.
People, especially with type 1, but type 2s as well. They get very little guidance and support and assistance from their physicians, from their
Right.
healthcare providers. I saw a need, an unmet need, unmet need.
Yes.
My blood sugar is not low.
It's all
Saw
good.
this unmet need that people just needed more detailed help, more help with the micromanagement of their diabetes than they could ever get from their healthcare team.
And this is in the early 90s when really there is not much technology outside of home blood glucose monitoring. And gosh, that's really, I mean, there were baseline pumps at that time,
Yeah,
but
I was the
really,
first pumper at our Joslin clinic.
hmm,
They needed a guinea pig because they wanted to start a pump program. I was the token type 1 on the staff, so naturally Gary goes on a pump. So I got
yeah.
on it's a mini med 506 with
Wow.
a needle set you couldn't disconnect from. So basketball became challenging having to wear this big clunky pump when I played.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had pumps, but not a lot of people were using them. We just
No.
had finger stick glucose meters and log books that had blood stains and foods smeared all over them. And that was
Yes.
the information that we used for helping fine tune.
Which even then, that information wasn't very beneficial because again, I mean, mine as a teenager, I remember the number of times I put in like blood glucose values because I hadn't remembered to get them out of my monitor. And on the way to the doctor, my mom's like, "Where are all of your blood sugar numbers?"
Yeah.
So I mean, it is the best story. And at that point, then what is the best kind of evaluator? It is an A1C. That's what we had, right? To give the average, especially if those numbers in that logbook weren't correct. And
Mhm.
so their education wise was very like tip of the iceberg that you could probably give. And the fact that you said it wasn't even great, just that little bit extra that could have been given to find a need to be able to take something out and do it yourself is really
Yeah.
it's really awesome.
I learned so much from my coworkers at Joslin. We had the full multidisciplinary team. I learned from the doctors, the nurses, the psychologists, uh, the exercise physiologists we had was up in Boston, but also and the dietitians I learned a lot from.
Sure.
I find dietitians tend to be very well-rounded people. I don't know if you found that to be the case, but
They are, I think they really the majority of dietitians who go to school to be truly a dietitian, a registered dietitian, they're there kind of with a passion about nutrition and body systems because quite honestly, when you go to school for nutrition, you also go for a biology degree, right? And you are in pretty much the same pre-med classes as doctors are going for. It's then you sort of venture off into your different avenues, of study. But dietitians know a lot about body systems and physiology. I mean, I had exercise physiology classes in my coursework as well. So I'm not surprised that you learned probably the most from the dietitians, especially when you consider diabetes,
yeah.
because
I
food's such a
forgot,
big
Jenny.
piece.
What's your degree in?
I am a registered dietitian.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Forgot about that. Good.
That's the love for I also, I mean, I went to school knowing essentially where I wanted to go with lots of little things away along the way. Kind of probably like you start out in a place, you learn what you need to know, and then you move on because you know a different path or a different way to do things, which it sounds like that's kind of how you came up with starting your own business.
Yeah, yeah. There was this need. And I knew also in the back of my mind that you got to surround yourself with the right people.
Mhm.
You can't do it all yourself. I love that line from the Dirty Harry movies. Man's got to know his limitations. Ask my wife. I got so many limitations. My goodness. So I like to surround myself with the best people in the field, and that's why I've only hired people who have that personal connection to diabetes and also have tremendous clinical skills. They're well-rounded, good personalities. You can't teach personality. You can teach skills. You can never teach personality.
No, you really can't. And that's, I think, what you learned early on, even in school, looking at doctors. And by no means, a negative to doctors, but a lot of them, like you said, they're sort of to a degree, there's not enough personality because I think they don't get to do what we do within your practice, right? They don't really get to know people truly. They don't spend enough time. They don't have allotted enough time. And so people also don't get to know their doctor's personality.
Mhm.
And then it kind of goes back and forth. They ask you the baseline things, you check them off a list, out the office you go, you might get some lab reports, which are also, they don't have a personality to them. So, you know,
Fortunately. So the big challenge early on and to this day is how to get people to pay their hard-earned dollars out of pocket for the kind of service we provide. And
right,
so I've taken the approach, number one is provide the absolute best level of care and no holds barred, whatever it takes to help that patient, help that client do their absolute best.
right,
You're not going to get that anywhere else. So to me, that's the kind of thing they will be willing to pay for. And
right.
the second thing is flexibility. We've never gone the route of working for any institution. We've never worked for any company. So we
Hmm.
can be fair and unbiased in what we discuss and our recommendations. And yeah, and we're, I think, more than judgmental when it comes to this stuff, but there's a reason we have to be.
Right.
So, but I can also, and we don't accept insurance, so we can be as flexible as we want to be, and
With
we
our
are very
recommendations.
flexible.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've said before, we've had patients pay us kind of in barter. We've received baked goods. I
Right.
think I get copier cartridges from one of my patients,
There you
toner
go.
cartridges. Yeah, so whatever works. With the baked goods, though, we do have standards. They've got to be good baked goods. If
I'll
it's
always take chocolate.
yeah, you got to wear a sign, Jenny. We'll educate for chocolate.
Dark chocolate. Good dark
Dark.
chocolate.
You got a certain cacao percentage that you particularly like.
80% plus.
80% plus. That is some dark
It
chocolate.
is. It's very good. Yes.
What's the
So,
best chocolate you've ever had?
oh gosh. There are probably a couple. One I can remember in particular is some friends of ours went to Iceland last summer. They took their kids, they went for 2 weeks, and we took care of some of their gardening stuff and just watched their house. When they came back, they brought us some Icelandic dark chocolate, and it was some of the best chocolate that I've ever had in my whole life. It was just fantastic. In fact, I went online. I was like, can I order Icelandic chocolate to the United States
Funny.
and how much is shipping?
You never think of Iceland as like the mecca for chocolate. You think of like Germany, Switzerland,
Right.
but Iceland, I don't know, they
Mhm.
maybe Italian ice. I don't know what they'd be famous for, but
Yeah.
you wouldn't think chocolate.
No, I don't. It was just very, very good. I think my husband and I have been, over to Europe a couple of times. And we were in Paris. I can remember having really from a chocolatier there, pretty
Mhm.
good chocolate. Um, so yeah, I mean, the general brand name chocolates are not usually,
Not the
we've got
same.
a really good chocolatier here in Madison, Gail Ambrosia, just fantastic. So anyway, what do you like? What
I
are
mean, I
your
like milk
favorites?
chocolate, but I'm, kind of a salty snacks guy. Popcorn is one of my favorite things to eat. And I think one of the reasons I married Debbie is because when we were dating and it was Valentine's Day, she got this big, giant heart-shaped box and just stuffed it with popcorn. And I like, wow, she really knows. This woman is sensitive to my needs.
Thus the reason when you fly, which you fly an awful lot, is you always try to fly and get what
Through
nut
Chicago.
through
I fly through
Chicago
Chicago.
to get nuts on Clark
You got
popcorn.
it. Nuts
And
on
it's
Clark.
only good when it's fresh, right? You can't send it to Gary because it's got to be fresh.
Well, it's still pretty good. If you ordered it, anyone who's listening, if you order Nuts on Clark popcorn and send it to me, just the plain buttered popcorn, they seal it up pretty good. So just in case anyone's listening and wants to send me something I might like, that would do it.
That's awesome. And how does your how do you navigate popcorn? Do you have any special tricks?
Not easily. It seems it digests so incredibly slow. It's got fat, it's got fiber. It takes a while to eat, so I have to extend my boluses out several hours. You can't give any of the bolus up front,
Right.
uh, and that usually does the job. And if I have enough of it, then the fat will have a delayed effect, so I got to deal with that later. But it's worth it. And you know what? If the popcorn's that good, even if my blood sugars go up after, it's still worth it.
It was
Because
still worth it.
sometimes you just got to say, screw it. I'm going to enjoy myself and not worry so much about my blood sugars.
Well, and that, I mean, that brings up a good piece just in practice, right? With our practice having all clinicians who have diabetes, not only have you moved through a lot of different technology and pumping systems and tried the continuous glucose monitors on the market, I can't even imagine how many glucometers you probably went through before CGMs came to market, right? But what have you learned about eating even just popcorn, right? The new technology probably is so much far superior and more hand holding than you experienced years ago, right?
Yeah. I thought I was going to have a tandem Mobi pump to try out this week, but it hasn't arrived yet.
Oh
So
no.
I got something else.
What
I'm
did
going to
you get?
give a
A
Freza
Frezza.
a real good college effort. I'm going to go a couple of weeks with this and a basal insulin.
Are you
And
doing an injection? We all experiment, right? We all try something. We often do a lot of food challenges within our practice, and share lots of it, with listeners and different types of media outlets. Are you doing completely off pumping?
yeah, for what I might do is 1 week off the pump, just use maybe a Libre sensor because I haven't tried the Libre 3 yet,
Okay.
and just take an injection of long acting Afrezza with and between meals. And then the second week, I might go back on my open source Loop app just for the basal delivery
Yep.
and use Afrezza at meal times and see what if that doesn't kill me, I'll report back on it.
Yeah, there's so many different options. Again, that's the nice thing about working in a practice with so many other people who have type 1 because we can bounce ideas and share with each other. And where does that information go? It goes to the people that we eventually get to work with, which means you're getting user friendly ahead of your use. Right? So we can get it perfected and then we can give you the real 1, 2, 3 of kind of how to make it work, right?
It's for the good of science we try these things.
For the good of it was speaking of which, I always share when we do food challenges, right? I always share that with my husband or my kids, and I'm like, hey, mommy's doing a food challenge. I'm taking pictures of things and I'm really taking photos of how my graphs are looking and all that kind of stuff. How does your family navigate your life? with diabetes, or are they just kind of, you've got a wife, you've got kids who are more adult now, right?
Well, back
Um,
in when CGM first came out and you had to carry a receiver around with you everywhere, I would misplace that thing constantly.
I bet Debbie loved
So
that.
my kids learned to profit from
Oh,
it. I would pay $5 to whoever found my CGM first. And then Debbie kind of cued me in. She said, Gary, they are hiding it on you.
it's always the mom that knows exactly what the kids are doing
Yeah.
or are up to.
I learned my kids are very entrepreneurial in their own right. Uh, so that we try to have fun with it. I used to claim my blood sugar was low when there was something good to eat. I wanted all of it. And then they'd start asking for proof, evidence that I was actually low. Imagine not trusting your own father about his glucose level.
Did you ever have to hide glucose, whatever you use to treat your lows? Did you ever have to hide it, like put it away so nobody could find it and eat it up, and then you go to it and there's nothing left?
Yes, I have to do that with Gatorade. I keep
Oh,
Gatorade in the fridge, and I have a sticky note with a skull and crossbones on it that says Gary's. And I just keep transferring it to the new bottles so that no one else drinks it.
that's a good idea. Does
So we'll
Debbie,
chug it otherwise.
does Debbie, has she ever followed your data, or does she not want to, or you don't really care?
No, no,
No,
she hasn't. And I know it's beneficial to have a loved one follow it, not just for safety reasons, but they've got it's research that shows people have better control when someone is following it, just because of the accountability that it
sure.
gives folks. I just never really felt comfortable having someone else follow my data.
Hmm.
It's every glucose value. There's a whole story behind it, and I don't feel like sharing the whole story when every time someone says, "Oh, so why are you high now? Why are you low now?" I don't want to go through all of that.
Right. I do it typically when I travel. Then Nathan will kind of turn on the follow component. But outside of that, I don't, because while my CGMs work pretty darn well for me and I don't have many issues, there are those times where you have a new sensor, right? And it's reading LOW, you're low. Well, then you're getting these text messages that, like, are you okay? Did you eat something? Are you okay? And nobody, well, that's lovely. And they mean the best. And I know Debbie, she would mean her best.
Yeah, into always good intentions.
Yeah, but it can be an explanation, like you said, with every number, there's an explanation, and you don't necessarily, you do that to yourself, that inner monologue, you're already navigating that. And I think that it's hard when, as an adult, especially, you have to then tell somebody.
Yeah, it's one of those do as I say, not as I do things where having a loved one follow it. Just like when we're teaching about treatment of hypoglycemia.
Hmm.
No one wants to know, and no one should follow what I do when I go low. So I
Right.
am a chronic overtreater, and I
Oh,
eat all the wrong stuff when I'm low.
stories I never knew, and I've known you a long
Yeah, come
time.
on. What is you got to do something? I mean, I know you manage well, but what's the do as I say, not as I do thing in Jenny's world?
Oh my goodness. Um, Well, one that I think we all do is like never changing our Landsat.
Oh,
Like,
that's passe at this point.
that's probably one of the I will definitely say that I think with new technology, I've become more aware because it's more visible, the impact, especially for treatments for lower blood sugar. I got pretty good at knowing, but as you said, those symptoms can be pretty aggressive at times. And depending on the time of day, like overnight, treating a low, and you just don't want to wake up again. And you're like so annoyed. And the whole bag of like taffy in the cupboard looks really, really tasty. So you eat many of them. But today's technology, it's great because, especially, you're a looper. I also use a do it yourself. Um, and because of that, it's an easier way to see how much is needed if your brain is willing to pay attention to that.
The
So,
problem is I listen to my brain when I'm hungry and low, and my brain keeps telling me to eat and eat and eat. well, I guess part of my brain is the pleasure center of my brain. The
Yes.
intellectual part, that little tiny scrap that makes up the intellectual part of my brain, it's saying, but the rest of my brain is saying, eat that
Eat,
now, eat more of it.
eat the whole bag of chips because yes, they're really quick sugar, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
more must be better. Yeah.
More is always better. um, if you, I guess, if you had to do anything that was outside of the realm of being Gary from Integrated Diabetes, the super CDCES that you are, would you choose something else? Like, let's say people have asked me this, what if diabetes was cured tomorrow and you had no job left because nobody needed you? What would you do?
Well, I've thought about that, and it's hard to come up with a real occupation, but
Mhm.
there's two things I could see myself doing. I have no idea if they would ever pay me enough to even pay my bills, but I think I would be a very good laziness cop. It bothers me when I see people being just not being active enough and just ridiculously lazy. And I want to be able to write citations for that and do it nationwide, worldwide, and make the world a healthier place. For example, people who wait to get a parking spot, they'll sit there with their engine running to get a spot that's two spots closer to something that's already open.
Right. Just
Frustrates.
park. I
Yeah,
hate that too.
people
Yeah.
who insist on taking the elevator or escalator when there's a
And
perfectly good staircase right there. But the worst is the moving walkways
oh,
at
yes,
airports and shopping centers.
standing
People
on them.
they get on the moving walkway and they think it's a ride in Disney World. They just
Yeah.
stand there
And they
moving
stand
for
in the
that.
middle.
Yeah, and you can't get past them. And the thing is moving like a foot a minute. It hardly moves, and it's supposed to just help you get there quicker. You're not supposed to stand there and just. I, so
Yes.
yeah, I would love to just write citations to people for stuff like that.
I
I'd be a
don't know.
very popular guy.
You'd probably have to have your own business and figure out how to get yourself paid for doing that because
Well, I'm thinking government grant. I'm trying to improve the health of people.
so you would want to be a encourager of movement.
Yes,
You could take out lazy from it to
a
make it actually turn it.
facilitator, a facilitator of physical activity.
There's a new job title. There you
Physical
go.
activity facilitator.
You know, the one place that that would absolutely be, as you talk about that, I can remember when we lived in Washington, D.C. I rode the metro in every single day, right? And it was very visible people who didn't do that every single day because they were the ones blocking the escalators up and down to the next train that was coming, and you're like, stand on the right,
Yeah.
walk on the left, move quickly or move over, please. So you would have a prime job right there on the escalators at any metro or subway station.
I could see training a whole platoon of fellow, what do we call it? Facilitators of physical activity.
There you go.
I would train a whole platoon of these and dispatch them around the world. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I'd love to do that. We
As
could all
long as
sit
the
down,
outfit was fancy, a cute t-shirt or something, I
something
might
with a
come work for
lightning.
you again.
I want something with a lightning bolt on it that would look really cool, like a superhero type thing.
I can understand, I can understand just in again knowing you for such a long time, knowing your personality and having read your Think Like a Pancreas book as well, which folds your personality into really good information. But I guess what propelled you to write a book? And which you've got a couple, but really Think was your first one. Am I
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
what really gave you that inkling?
Just getting the word out. I knew I could physically only see so many people.
Mhm.
And even our team, we've got 9 clinicians and we can only see so many people. It's just an opportunity to get the word out and help educate, motivate, and inspire that many more people.
Sure.
I believe it's the top selling book in the type 1 diabetes community. And I don't know how official these numbers are that they collect, but I think it is the number 1 selling book for type 1s. I'm working on the new edition right now, and you're helping me with the resource section. It's
I
You know
am the
more about apps than anybody I know, so you're helping me with that part.
I am. I've got some new ones to add. And also the book section. There are, I can't remember when your most recent edition came out. It's a couple years already, right?
It's almost 6 years.
Really? That
Yeah,
long? I thought
yeah,
it was more recent than that. But there are a number of new books that I am on are on my list to type up as well. So
good.
yay.
Yeah, if you find an app that helps you find the best chocolate in any city in the world, that I think that'd be popular.
That would be a popular one to add. That would be, I would use that
I see
app.
the wheels turning, Jenny.
That would be a really great app, actually.
Yeah. And you'd make so much money on this app. You could just spend your time traveling and testing out all the places and
Of
figuring out which
chocolate.
food in the app. That
While
could be,
telling people how to be more active while they eat their chocolate.
yeah, yeah. Well, dark chocolate's a lot healthier than most other forms, and it's a good thing you can walk it off afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So
Anything else that we need to know about the Gary Scheiner at all?
my basketball career is continuing nicely. I'm playing twice a week now. I've got a
Awesome.
very old guys league I play in on Sundays, and a middle to middle-aged guys league I play in on Monday nights. And the rest of the week is either recovering or just trying to stay in shape for those games. So
Are you still
doing-
doing lifting as well?
yeah, yeah, 3 times a week. And doing some other cardio stuff the other days. I love to bike. I mean, basketball is my passion sports wise, but for fitness purposes, I love getting out on my bike,
Like,
going for long rides. These old railroad lines that have been converted to bike trails are wonderful. So if anyone out there knows some really good ones, let us know about those.
there are
I
some in Northern Virginia as well, if you've never been. I know you like with Atlanta. No, not New Jersey. Is that the one that you guys often go to sometime? The shore?
Yeah, go to the Jersey Shore, Southern Jersey Shore, like from Cape May up to Atlantic City. Just
Okay.
ride through the towns. There's some traffic, but it's not too bad. But there's bike trails around the Philadelphia region that run along the rivers, and they're beautiful. Be nice long all day trips. That's where I get to reset my brain and really relax. And some people, they do their yoga and meditation and whatnot. I get on that bike and I just so
That,
relaxing.
that's kind of funny because I told my aunt one time who has always been very big in yoga and more like natural health and living and everything. And I said, I can't meditate. I can't sit
Yeah.
still and just think about because then I end up thinking about everything and I'm not meditating. Like I'm not
Thinking about what I could and should be doing while I'm meditating.
right. So she's like, "Oh, that's okay, Jenny." She said, "You're a moving meditator." And that's so like it made sense to me because I do when I run weekly, I think about so many things. I also do it first thing in the morning, so I'm well rested, kind of have a fresh brain and kind of a bigger outlook on all the things I'm trying to navigate through. And I come back with some of the best ideas. Sometimes I actually have an outline for some of my newsletter articles that I write and kind of put together. So yeah, you're a moving meditator, Gary.
Okay, I'll buy that.
So, well, this has been a pleasure just chatting with you because we also never really get to just talk.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, we always have tons of business and projects and work going on that yeah,
yes,
you and I never get a chance to just sit and chat like this.
and
So
chat.
we had to create a whole podcast to do it.
We did, absolutely. So, and nothing else? You're good?
I suppose, yeah. I
Okay.
am using I'm using a GLP-1 receptor agonist. I do find it's very helpful. I don't need to lose weight, but it helps me manage my food intake very nicely.
So
So
you found the benefit from appetite?
yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of us try, we try all the devices, but we also, a lot of us try different medications, and that's one that I've stuck with. I have found it helpful. When I don't use it, I'm just hungry nonstop, and it's really hard to manage your glucose levels and just be healthy when you're eating and hungry constantly. So
Mhm.
I find the GLP-1 receptor agonists to be pretty helpful for that. We've got a lot of clients on intensive insulin therapy who do also need to lose weight. So yeah, I find it can be pretty helpful.
Beneficial. How long, let's say you didn't take it or you forgot it or whatever, how long does it take before that appetite suppression that you find most beneficial? How long does it take before that kind of wanes off and now you know your appetite is back up to where it had been?
Generally it's a weekly injection. So
Right.
if I go a few days beyond the week when I should have taken it, so once I get to like 9, 10 days after my last shot, yeah, the appetite starts coming back with some ferocity. But what I do is if I'm going to go on vacation, I purposely don't take it because I really want to indulge and enjoy myself. And
Especially on
I,
your cruises, right?
yeah, a cruise or any place, where there's unlimited and really good food, and I want to take advantage of that. Kind of like my dad, I want to get my money's worth from everything. So if I'm going to be at some kind of all-inclusive, I want to make sure I eat enough to make it worthwhile.
Totally makes sense. Well, thank you very much for doing this today.
Oh,
Thanks for joining
thank you.
in.
You're so
Absolutely.
easy to talk with. I mean, you should be the host of all these podcasts that you're involved in.
Oh, you're very kind. That's nice of you.
I'm going to call Scott and tell him that. Dude,
That
you
I
got to
should be the host.
advocate. Yeah, make Jenny should be the host. You could be a guest once in a while, let her run it.
Just let Jenny talk. All right, Scott's got a he's pretty darn good about all the people that he gets to talk to and learn a lot about. So I hopefully, what we are able to do with our integrated podcast will really also reach, everybody I think has a different personality and different information that they're looking for. So I'm glad for all of the diabetes podcasts that are honestly available because what you might learn from one person, maybe you learn a little bit more from another podcast. You knew something, but now you can delve a little bit deeper into the information.
Mhm.
Which is certainly, what we do within integrated diabetes. As we've already said, we try things, we do it ourselves, we use technology. Um, we're certainly available at Integrated Diabetes to help people worldwide. We don't work just here with those in the United States, and we assist people of all ages with their glucose management, self management, all the education, help them use all the tools and the technologies, especially as that technology changes and shifts. We offer consultations in English and in Spanish. Tavy is wonderful, with specialized services in sports and exercise and weight loss and type 1 pregnancy and women's health and all of the emotional and mental well-being that goes along with managing a chronic condition. And on behalf of Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast, I was your host, Jenny Smith. And thank you, Gary, for being my wonderful guest. And have a great rest of the week, everyone. So, for more information, you can visit us at integrateddiabetes.com or you can email info@integrateddiabetes.com.